Before I begin, I just want to say, if you enjoy deep, emotional, thought-provoking stories that explore complicated human connections and real-life struggles, make sure you subscribe to my channel, turn on notifications, and stay with me until the very end. This story is intense, layered, and unforgettable. Trust me, you won't want to miss a single moment. That Friday night remains etched in my memory, like ink pressed too deeply into paper. It was one of those evenings where the world felt unusually still, as if time itself had paused to take a breath. The house was wrapped in silence. No television humming in the background. No dishes clattering in the sink. Just the soft murmur of the night wind brushing against the windows. I was exhausted. The kind of exhaustion that settles into your bones after years, not just days, of carrying responsibility alone. Being a single mother for 4 years had reshaped me in ways I never expected. After my divorce, life didn't explode into chaos the way people imagine. There were no dramatic scenes or screaming matches. My ex-husband and I had simply drifted apart, two people who once loved each other but no longer knew how to meet in the middle. Still, the quiet ending left its own kind of ache. Raising Jerry on my own became both my greatest pride and my heaviest burden. He was nearly 22 now, grown in age, but still my child in my heart. Smart, thoughtful, gentle in a world that often rewards hardness. He had stepped up in ways he never should have had to, helping around the house, watching over me as much as I watched over him. Sometimes I worried that he had grown up too fast. That night, I barely had the strength to change before collapsing into bed. Moonlight streamed through the thin curtains, painting silver shapes across the walls. I sank beneath the blankets, surrendering to the comfort of solitude. For the first time all week, I allowed myself to feel still. But just as sleep began to pull me under, a soft knock interrupted the silence. At first, I thought I imagined it. Then it came again, gentle, hesitant. "Mom." Jerry's voice was quiet, careful. I blinked into the darkness and saw his silhouette framed in the doorway. Instinctively, I sat up, pushing away the last threads of sleep. "What's wrong?" I asked. He stepped inside slowly, closing the door behind him as if afraid to disturb something fragile. Even in the dim light, I could see it, something heavy behind his eyes. "I couldn't sleep," he said. That wasn't unusual. Since the divorce, nights had been harder for him than he admitted. He rarely spoke about his father, rarely complained. But silence can hide wounds deeper than words ever reveal. "Come here," I murmured, patting the empty space beside me. He hesitated, just for a second, before lying down next to me. He faced me, his expression softer than I'd seen in years. Vulnerable. "Do you want to talk about it?" I asked gently. He shook his head. "I just wanted to be close to you." Those words stirred something inside me. It had been so long since he sought comfort like this. Not since he was younger. Not since the nights he'd crawl into my bed after a nightmare. I brushed his hair back from his forehead. He smiled faintly. We lay there in silence. After a while, I thought he had fallen asleep, but his voice broke through the darkness again. "Do you ever miss Dad?" The question caught me off guard. "Sometimes," I admitted quietly. "But what happened between us wasn't about you." He stared at the blanket, twisting the fabric between his fingers. "Do you think things could have been different?" There was so much packed into that question. Regret, guilt, maybe even self-blame. "We can't rewrite the past," I said softly. "Your father made his choices. None of it was your responsibility." I cupped his face gently. "You have always been more than enough for me." He rested his head against my shoulder then, and I felt the weight he had been carrying for years. Slowly his breathing deepened. He fell asleep. But I didn't. Something had shifted. Something subtle but undeniable. Morning arrived in pale gold light. I watched him sleeping peacefully, his features relaxed, the tension gone. Yet the feeling from the night before lingered, an awareness I couldn't quite name. Downstairs, I busied myself with breakfast. The familiar rhythm of flipping pancakes, pouring coffee, moving through routine helped steady me. Still, my mind kept replaying his expression. The depth in his gaze. When he joined me in the kitchen, hair tousled and eyes still heavy with sleep, he looked younger again. But there was something new there too, something steady and searching. "Thanks for last night," he said quietly. You never have to thank me, I replied. But when our eyes met, the air felt charged. Not uncomfortable, just different. The day unfolded normally. He retreated to his room. I handled errands. Yet beneath the surface, there was a quiet tension, like a string pulled just tight enough to hum. That evening, we sat on the couch watching a movie. The lights were low. Shadows flickered across the walls. At first, there was nothing unusual, just two people sharing space. Then his arm brushed against mine. Neither of us moved away. The contact was small, accidental perhaps, but it felt amplified. My heart quickened in a way that surprised me. Midway through the film, he shifted closer. This time intentionally. I turned to look at him. His eyes held questions he wasn't ready to voice. I reached for his hand. He didn't pull back. From that moment forward, something unspoken began to grow between us. Not reckless or hurried, but quiet and persistent. A connection layered with history, shared hardship, and deep emotional reliance. Days passed, and the closeness deepened. We talked more openly, laughed more easily. There was a comfort that felt absolute, like two people who understood each other without translation. One late autumn evening, rain tapping gently against the windows, we sat wrapped in a blanket near the fireplace. The storm outside blurred the world into watercolor shadows. Jerry leaned against me, his head resting on my shoulder. "Mom," he said softly. I felt the tremor in his voice. "I love you," he continued. "Not just because you're my mother, but because of who you are." The room felt suspended in time. I knew what he meant. Not in a reckless sense, but in the complicated way emotions can evolve when two people have endured everything together. "I love you too," I whispered. "More than anything." He looked at me as if searching for certainty. We didn't rush. We didn't speak about labels or the world beyond that room. We simply acknowledged the depth of what had grown between us. Something shaped by years of shared loneliness, loyalty, and dependence. When he leaned forward and pressed a gentle kiss to my lips, it wasn't hurried or aggressive. It was careful, almost questioning. And in that fragile moment, I realized lines had blurred in ways neither of us fully understood. The fire crackled softly. The rain continued its steady rhythm. We held each other, not as strangers crossing a forbidden boundary, but as two souls who had relied on each other for so long that separation felt impossible. That night, when he came to my room again, it wasn't out of fear or sleeplessness. It was because we both knew something had shifted permanently. We lay side by side, wrapped in silence. The world outside our home still existed, with its expectations, its judgments, its definitions of right and wrong. But inside those walls, we were simply two people bound by history, and an emotion neither of us had planned. I don't claim to have all the answers. I only know that love, in all its forms, is rarely simple. And that Friday night, the night that began in exhaustion and quiet, became the beginning of something neither of us could have predicted. Whether it was strength or weakness, destiny or mistake, time would decide. But in that moment, all we felt was certainty. And sometimes, certainty is louder than the storm outside.